At the height of his career, the most brilliant scholar in the Islamic world had a breakdown. Ghazali realized that everything he'd learned with his mind meant nothing, because there was another kind of knowledge, a knowledge that comes from the heart, and it's more reliable than anything your brain can figure out. This isn't mystical nonsense. Modern neuroscience has discovered that your heart has 40,000 neurons. It sends more signals to your brain than your brain sends to it. Your heart can predict future events before your conscious mind knows what's happening. Ghazali understood this 900 years before we had the technology to prove it. But let's start with his story, because it's also your story. In 1091, Abu Hamid Ghazali was the most celebrated intellectual in the Islamic world. He was a professor at the Nizamiya University in Baghdad, one of the greatest universities on earth, at a time when universities barely existed in Europe. Students traveled from across the known world to hear him speak. He had mastered law, theology, philosophy, and logic. He could out-debate anyone. His mind was a weapon of precision and power, and he was miserable. Because despite knowing everything that could be known through rational thought, Ghazali felt empty. He had all the answers, but none of them satisfied the deeper questions his heart was asking. He wrote later that he realized he was living on borrowed knowledge, repeating what others had said without any real understanding of truth. Is the crisis that millions of successful people face today. You can master your field, achieve everything you thought you wanted, and still feel like something essential is missing. Psychologists call this success depression. You have everything your rational mind told you to pursue, but your heart knows it's not enough. Ghazali's breakthrough came when he encountered Sufi mystics who spoke of a different kind of knowledge. They called it heart knowledge, direct experiential knowledge that comes through the heart. This was different from rational knowledge, which is knowledge gained through learning and logic. The Sufis claimed that while the mind can know about things, only the heart can truly know things as they are. Modern neuroscience is proving Ghazali right in ways that would have seemed impossible just decades ago. Research from the Heart Math Institute shows that your heart has its own neural network with over 40,000 neurons. This heart-brain can learn, remember, and make decisions independently from your head brain. But here's what's even more remarkable. Studies show that your heart starts responding to future events before your brain does. In experiments conducted by the Institute of Heart Math, researchers found that participants' hearts began reacting to emotional images 1.3 seconds before their brains showed any response. Your heart literally knows what's coming before your mind does. This aligns perfectly with what Ghazali discovered through his own experience. After his crisis, he realized that there were different levels of knowledge. Rational knowledge could tell you facts about the world, but it couldn't give you wisdom about how to live. Heart knowledge, on the other hand, provided direct insight into truth. Ghazali distinguished between three sources of knowledge. First, there was knowledge from the senses, which could be deceived. Second, there was knowledge from reason, which was more reliable but still limited. And third, there was knowledge that came through what he called inner illumination, a direct knowing that bypassed both senses and reason. This wasn't just philosophical speculation. Ghazali tested this through direct experience. He wrote about how, during periods of doubt, he would find himself unable to trust even basic logical principles. But then, as he described it, a light would be cast into his heart, and he would suddenly understand things with absolute certainty. Modern research on intuitive decision-making supports exactly what Ghazali described. Studies by researchers like Antonio Damasio have shown that people with damage to the emotional centers of their brains make terrible decisions, even when their logical reasoning remains intact. This research led to what's called the somatic marker hypothesis, which suggests that emotions and gut feelings are essential for good decision-making. The term gut feelings isn't just a metaphor. Your digestive system has its own nervous system, sometimes called the second brain, with over 500 million neurons. This enteric nervous system communicates constantly with your brain through the vagus nerve. When you feel something in your gut, there's actual neural activity happening. Research published in the journal Emotion found that when people focus on their feelings rather than analytical details, they make better decisions, especially for complex choices. The study showed that participants who used emotion-focused decision strategies achieved superior objective and subjective decision quality compared to those who relied purely on logical analysis. This validates what Ghazali taught about the superiority of heart knowledge for certain types of understanding. While rational analysis works well for simple, technical problems, heart knowledge excels at complex life decisions where multiple factors need to be integrated. Ghazali's insight was that different types of questions require different types of knowledge. If you want to know how to build a bridge, rational knowledge is perfect. But if you want to know whether you should marry someone, whether to take a job, or how to find meaning in life, heart knowledge is superior. Think about your own experience. Your biggest life decisions, the ones you never regret, probably felt right before you could explain why. You might have spent time analyzing pros and cons afterward, but the knowing came first, from somewhere deeper than logic. Ghazali called this inner knowing a form of direct perception. Just as your eyes can see color without having to reason about wavelengths of light, your heart can perceive truth without having to construct logical arguments. A knowledge is immediate, certain, and actionable. Modern neuroscience has identified the neural basis for this kind of knowing. The anterior cingulate cortex and the insula are brain regions that integrate emotional and cognitive information. They process vast amounts of unconscious information and generate feelings that guide decision-making. This happens below the threshold of conscious awareness, which is why gut feelings often seem to come from nowhere. Heart rate variability research shows that when your heart rhythms become coherent, meaning they follow a smooth, ordered pattern, your brain function improves dramatically. Coherent heart rhythms enhance cognitive performance, emotional stability, and decision-making ability. This coherent state can be achieved through focusing on positive emotions and breathing rhythmically. Ghazali developed practices for accessing heart knowledge that mirror what modern research has found to be effective. He emphasized the importance of inner quiet, emotional purification, and sincere seeking of truth. These practices create the conditions where heart knowledge can emerge. One of Ghazali's key insights was that heart knowledge requires a different kind of preparation than rational knowledge. While you develop rational knowledge through study and debate, you develop heart knowledge through what he called polishing the mirror of the heart. This involved removing the mental and emotional obstacles that cloud inner perception. Contemporary research on mindfulness and meditation confirms that these practices enhance intuitive abilities. Studies show that people who meditate regularly score higher on tests of implicit learning and show increased activity in brain regions associated with interoceptive awareness, the ability to sense internal bodily signals. The practical implications of Ghazali's insights are profound. In our modern world, we're taught to trust only rational analysis. We make spreadsheets, weigh pros and cons, and seek expert opinions. But we often ignore the quiet voice of inner knowing that already has the answer. This over-reliance on rational analysis can lead to what researchers call analysis paralysis. Studies show that too much deliberation can actually worsen decision quality, especially for complex personal choices. The conscious mind can only hold a few pieces of information at once, while the unconscious mind can process vast amounts of data simultaneously. Ghazali argued that the highest form of human knowledge comes from integrating rational and heart knowledge. He didn't reject reason, but he recognized its limitations. Reason is excellent for understanding the mechanics of the world, but heart knowledge is needed for understanding meaning, purpose, and value. Think about the decisions you're facing right now. Your rational mind might be spinning through endless possibilities, trying to calculate the best choice. But somewhere beneath all that mental activity, you probably already know what you need to do. That knowing isn't based on logic. It's based on a deeper intelligence that has access to information your conscious mind can't process. Ghazali's revolution was recognizing that this inner intelligence isn't inferior to rational thought. It's actually superior for the questions that matter most. Your heart knows things your mind never will. It knows what will make you truly happy. It knows what aligns with your deepest values. It knows when something is right, even when you can't explain why. The challenge isn't developing this capacity. You already have it. The challenge is learning to trust it. In a world that demands logical justification for everything, it takes courage to follow your heart's guidance. But the research is clear. People who trust their intuition, especially for complex life decisions, are more satisfied with their choices. Ghazali spent years learning to distinguish between genuine heart knowledge and wishful thinking. He developed criteria for recognizing authentic inner guidance. True heart knowledge, he said, brings peace, clarity, and a sense of rightness. False guidance brings anxiety, confusion, and inner conflict. Modern psychology has identified similar markers. Genuine intuition tends to be calm, quiet, and persistent. It doesn't argue with you or try to convince you. It simply knows. Wishful thinking, on the other hand, is usually loud, urgent, and emotional. It tries to override your better judgment rather than inform it. Learning to access and trust heart knowledge is one of the most practical skills you can develop. It's not about becoming less rational. It's about expanding your intelligence to include forms of knowing that pure logic can't access. Your heart has been trying to guide you all along. Maybe it's time to start listening. Ghazali's great contribution was showing that intelligence isn't just what happens in your head. The deepest wisdom emerges from the integration of mind and heart, reason and intuition, analysis and direct knowing. In a world drowning in information, but starving for wisdom, this integration has never been more needed. Your heart knows what your mind can't. The question is whether you'll trust it.